From WATN in high definition, it's Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Hope you're having a nice Sunday morning, and thanks for joining us for Local 24 This Week, where you can count on us to bring you the real story behind the big stories, and we have a lot to get to. There's early voting and the early voting scorecard, which you really need one to keep track of what happened involving the Shelby County Election Commission. We're going to break it all down for you. The costly governor's race, we learned this week the race for Tennessee governor is now the most expensive of any race for any office in state history. We'll talk about the negative turn that has full handfuls of mud being slung. But first, we're going one-on-one this morning with a candidate for Congress. The primary is August 2nd. Early voting started Friday, and we want to help you put a face with the names you'll be seeing on the ballot. John Boatner Jr. is a Democrat running for the District 8 congressional seat, which is now being held by David Kustoff. Welcome, first of all. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Sunday morning. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you,
Let's talk about a little bit about you, because you're going to be a new face to a lot of people who are watching. Your website describes you as a proud dad and husband, devout Catholic, sixth-generation West Tennessean, advocate for the working class who just received a doctorate in social work from the University of Tennessee. What am I leaving out? What else do you want people to know about you?
Well, you know, you've covered most all the bases. Yeah, like you said.
I do biographies very well.
I'm the son of a local musician. My dad played the piano in the Peabody Hotel for 30 years. So a lot of people hear my name and think, are you any relation to the piano player?
John Boatner.
That was my dad. Yeah, yeah. He tickled the ivories of the lobby of the Peabody for 30 years. I went to Idlewild Elementary and Christian Brothers High School, so I'm a hybrid of public and private education. And yeah, you know, when I was 19, I moved out west, lived in Montana for 5 years, and then New York City for 6, and returned home in 2015 with my wife to raise a family. Very good.
Why Congress?
Well, on the day my daughter was born, I picked up the newspaper to commemorate her birth. And the headline read, "They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen," and it had a picture of the president looking rather unpleasant. And that lit our fuse. I had recently joined the Shelby County Democratic Party in its reformation, which occurred in 2017. And after stewing in it for a few weeks, it really was getting to me. I looked into who was representing the 8th Congressional District, which is where I reside, in East Memphis, and I realized that there isn't much representation. There are not regularly scheduled town hall meetings where, you know, the median income of the district is $45,000 a year. And then looking at the financials of the current congressman, 99.4% of his money comes from large donors and super PACs. And given the makeup of what's going on in D.C. right now, you know, one of the cornerstone values of my principles, or one of the cornerstone values of my profession, of the social work profession, is to stand against social injustice and to advocate for social justice. And after talking with about a few dozen people, we realized that this is what needed to happen.
Some people ask, why not start with something more tame, perhaps like a school board position or a mayor's position?
That is a common question that I've been asked. There was no opposition to the current congressman at that time, and it seemed like nobody was wanting to do that job. But as somebody who has, throughout his life, I'm sorry, I'm talking about me.
That's right.
I've put large tasks in front of me. You know, I moved out to Montana when I was 19, self-funded. I moved to New York City for 6 years with really nothing but.
So Congress just didn't intimidate you at all?
No, I mean, it doesn't. To be honest, we have a mess right now, and I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of dedication to my profession and its values, and I want to make a better world for my daughter and our community.
So if a Democrat goes into the booth and they ask for the Democratic ballot, the other name they're going to see in the District 8 race is Erica Stotts Pearson.
Right.
Distinguish yourself from her. Why should they pull the lever for you? Or I don't want to pull levers anymore, but why should they push the button for you rather than her?
I filed my our political campaign. We filed in October of 2017. We've been at this. We've been growing a grassroots campaign day by day, and we have garnered the support from local leaders, local organizations, and community in general for this race. We have been dedicated to this since late last year, and we believe that we will do the work that is required to win. And I am biased, but I believe that our campaign is the most viable Democratic campaign against any one of the Republican nominees who might win.
Which brings up my next question. Say you do win the nomination. I know Democrats are hoping for a blue wave in the midterm elections, but for a Democrat to win District 8 in Tennessee, most would argue would take a tsunami of some sort, or maybe a natural disaster we haven't come up with yet. How on earth do you think a Democrat can win District 8?
We need buy-in from every local Democratic leader. We need buy-in from Republican leaders who are also upset with their own party and the current leadership that is happening right now on the state and federal levels. We need buy-in from everyone, and to understand that I am somebody, it's my job to listen to people, to advocate for them, and that's what I do. It's my job to be uncomfortable, or to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and we need people to understand that I will work for everyone in West Tennessee, and it's going to take a village to help us get there.
But that buy-in seems to me your biggest challenge, because if you believe what the polls are saying, at least in Tennessee, they are very much in favor of everything this president has done, including tariffs, which might work against a lot of your constituents if you were to become congressman of District 8. A lot of agriculture would be adversely affected, and they still are.
It already is adversely affected. Right now, soybean prices have reached their highest price in a very long time, and soybean is one of the top 3 crops in District 8, which spans most of the counties between the Tennessee and the Mississippi River. So the soybean industry is being hit very hard with this right now, and they deserve better. They deserve accurate representation, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert in agriculture by any means, but I will learn. You know, I have spent my life as a learner. I just wrapped up my doctorate in social work. I will learn from anybody about what issues affect them, and I will fight for them and everyone in Washington.
Well, I know it's going to get really busy for you now that early voting has started. I wish you the best of luck on the campaign trail, and thanks for coming in today to talk to us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very grateful.
All right, we'll be back with our roundtable right after this.
Think about this. You wouldn't pay more money for the same vegetable. So why pay more for your flexible line of credit? If you need money fast, Title Max can help. Pay less with our flexible line of credit. Take as much or as little as you need of your credit limit, without the need to have your car appraised every time you need funds. Visit TitleMax.com/flex to find out how you can get up to $6,500 and pay less for your flexible line of credit.
Right here.
Daddy, is it time?
No, not yet, sweetie. I was raised in Whitehaven by 2 teachers. They taught me to be a leader and to fight for working men and women.
Now?
No, not yet. I am running for mayor of Shelby County because I believe it's time we invest in education, in students, in the next generation. Okay, now.
This month was paid for by Harrisburg County Mayor. You owe me $3.
Everything must go sale at Family Leisure.
Huge discount store-wide. Beat next year's price increase. All remaining pools are priced to move. 24-foot pools only $14.99 installed. Save thousands on do-it-yourself pool specials. Patio furniture, wicker, sling, cast, and more. Save up to 60%. Melt away stress. Spa starting at $17.99. Huge savings on all in-stock places. Deep discounts on these great items as well. Grills, fire pits, barbecue islands, and more.
Everything must go sale going on now at Family Leisure.
Family and fun come together.
Never stop chasing the story. Be committed to being there.
We're glad you're okay.
Oh, thank you.
On the scene, wherever the story may be.
You could hear the gunfire just around this wall.
Always reaching higher together.
Back on the job.
Back in the job.
Help build my country back.
Local 24 News at 5 with a news team you can trust. And World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast. You're watching Local 24 this week with Richard Ransom.
Time now for my roundtable. We have a lot to get to today. Let me introduce to you Ryan Poe. He is the 901 columnist with a commercial appeal. Congratulations on the promotion. Very good. And Noah Sanford, Local 24 political analyst and commentator. The governor's race getting more and more interesting, guys. I think you would agree. Lots of interesting takes on this. Not the least of which is how much money these candidates are spending. $37 million. Now the most expensive race in Tennessee history, bar none. What do you have to make of that, Otis?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot at stake here. The Republicans obviously are desperate to hang on to that seat. Whoever wins on the Republican side, if they win at all, if they win in November, they will be following a very popular governor in Bill Haslam. And again, the stakes are very high. There are two very good Democratic opponents, so they are really fighting tooth and nails to get that nomination and go on to the November election.
Most of that money is being spent on advertising, of course. Let's show you one of the more creative new ads that came out this week. Beth Harwell.
You have a choice for governor. Behind all the fighting and posturing, Diane Black, Randy Boyd, and Bill Lee only offer political promises.
I am the only candidate who offers proven results instead of political promises. Under my leadership as your Tennessee Speaker, we've already balanced the budget and lowered your taxes, already outlawed sanctuary cities, and reduced the size of our state government.
Beth Harwell, the adult in the room.
That's the message she wants to portray. She's the adult in the room. What do you think of that ad?
Yeah, well, my personal opinion of it is that, I mean, I think it's too little, too late, and she's already behind in the polls, all the polls that I've seen. So, I mean, like you said before, it's an expensive race, and I just don't think she's going to be able to make it up with that ad.
I think a lot of voters can relate to it. They're probably tired of the ads, and she does get her issues in there, too.
She gets her issues in there. She's saying what everybody else is saying about how nasty the Republican primary race is. It is true that they are sniping and fussing at each other. I got some very hateful flyers in my mailbox. So she's telling the truth here. I agree with Ryan. She's been behind all along. She doesn't have enough money to mount the kind of campaign that the others are doing. But she is an effective campaigner if she had been able to start earlier.
Randy Boyd is one of those who's going negative against Diane Black for sure. Both of those two like to paint it as a two-person race at this point. Let's show you the Randy Boyd ad that's out.
20-year professional politician D.C. Diane Black. In the D.C. swamp, D.C. Diane's net worth increased by more than $40 million. While enriching herself, D.C. Diane worked to raise our taxes by $160 million, while cutting her taxes by millions. And as budget chair, D.C. Diane let the debt soar to $21 trillion. D.C. Diane Black, out for herself, not us.
So, D.C. Diane, that's what they're going with, and they've done on several of their ads. And, of course, you have her fighting back with following up on the Tennessean article about how Randy Boyd avoided paying some taxes with some offshore accounts. Do you see this as the two-person race as they would like us to believe?
Yeah, you know, all the polls that I have seen, I've heard of two polls, and both show that Diane Black is ahead. Randy Boyd and Bill Lee are more closely tied. I heard he's up in one, down in one. So, you know, I think it's going to be close all the way around. I don't think any one candidate has a definitive win at this point.
How do you see it?
I think if anybody has a chance to beat Diane Black, it is Randy Boyd at this point, in my view. He has a lot of the establishment support. Establishment Republican mayors and other elected officials are supporting more of him than her. That ad is really a slap at Diane Black, playing off that swamp issue and having her face in the swamp. But I think it's a two-person race, and I think Randy Boyd is closer than some of the earlier polls showed. And I think it'll be interesting to see how turnout on the GOP side favors Boyd over Black.
Of course, Bill Lee is trying to stay positive, and is actually making that part of his mantra as he advertises. Let's look at his latest spot.
All these dishonest attack ads, they're a great example of what's wrong with politics. I'm not going down that road. It's not who I am. It's not what a leader does. I think those ads reveal a lot more truth about the person running the ad than the person in the ad. A person willing to deceive, say anything, do anything to get elected. Is that who you want as governor? If not, I'd sure appreciate your vote.
Different approach?
Very different approach.
He was able to go negative by staying positive.
Exactly. Yeah. And he looked right into the camera, and he was projecting himself as Mr. Nice Guy here. I'm above all the fray. We'll see how effective it is, because negative ads, I think, do work to some degree, especially gets the attention of voters.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting to think about who the real winner of this is going to be long term. The conservatives or the Republicans are on a just trying to see who can get as far right as they can.
Right.
Dean and Fitzhugh on the Democrat side are trying to move more to the center.
Right.
So in the general election, I think that's going to make the Democratic chances more likely. Because, we have a history statewide of picking more moderate candidates. So.
And that's true. And Dean is the much more centrist candidate, even over Fitzhugh. Fitzhugh has attracted the more left-leaning liberal.
Well, he's got the teachers union and some other backers.
And the legislative Black Caucus.
The Black Caucus, yeah,
is supporting him as well.
Yeah, another interesting point is how much this money is going to affect our local county general election. All these ads, all of this kind of driving people to the polls might help the Republicans.
Oh yeah.
Which
we're going to talk about that because Democrats are nervous about that very issue. One other development this week that I think is worth talking about was Diane Black introduced legislation in Congress which would make it a felony for anyone to cross the border. Right now, it's a misdemeanor. And she introduced this week as she knew that voters back in her home state were going to be going to the polls for early voting to begin in the governor's race. And so Local 24's Washington Bureau reporter Drew Petrimo caught up with her in the hallways of the Capitol and asked her about that. Let's listen to her response.
So you've been here for 4 terms. You're 1 month away from a Republican primary, and we're to believe that this is a coincidence that this bill is coming out right now?
Not at all. I think all you have to do is look at my history of what I've been doing before this. This isn't the first time that I've done something with filing bills. Obviously, I've been doing that all along.
All right. You buy that?
Well, of course not. I mean, yes, she's been filing bills, but she hadn't filed a bill to make it a felony. To come across the border. I mean, this is pandering at its worst. It is opportunism at its worst. And what she told our reporter in Washington was just spin that makes no sense to me.
And Otis, she does know that the polling shows that immigration is the #1 issue with her constituents back home. And it has been more so increasingly with every day, just about, because of the national conversation.
True.
She's just doing what her constituents might want her to do.
But that's the definition in this instance of pandering. That's what pandering is all about. Taking advantage of the situation.
Right. I tried, right?
I don't have much to add. I think Otis said it all.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about the county race. Some developments there we want to get into right after this.
Sleep Cheap is having their Sell of the Year event right now. The Queen mattress set for $199, twins starting at $69, and even greater savings on king sizes. Get 60% off Serta and Sealy bedding during the Sell of the Year event. No credit checks and everyone's approved.
There's a reason you come to City Auto. It begins with a greeting and becomes a relationship. For over 3 decades, you've trusted us to provide quality, selection, and value with options from economy to luxury. We understand why you buy is as important as where you buy, whether it's a security of a dependable vehicle or when your family is growing. Trust our integrity at City Auto and buy with confidence. Welcome to City Auto.
When I see on the news where a young person's been shot or sent to prison, I think that could have been one of my kids. One of the young men that I coached at Manassas. That's why I volunteered to coach. And that's why I'm running for county mayor. Because we need more after-school programs. We need to invest in our schools and our youth. And we need a mayor who will fight every day to keep gangs, drugs, and violent criminals away from our kids. I'm David Lenore, and I'm asking you to join our team. Together, we can build a safer, stronger Shelby County.
Are you a natural problem solver? Do you find yourself always taking the lead? If you answered yes, Local 24 might have an opportunity for you in media sales. To apply, contact John Marshall at jmarshall@localmemphis.com.
We love game night.
Because with game night, how you play reveals who you are.
Let's go! I'm
Blackish, coming this fall on Local 24.
Sleep Cheap is having their Sell of the Year event right now. The Queen mattress set for $199, twins starting at $69, and even greater savings on king sizes. Get 60% off Serta and Sealy bedding during the Sell of the Year event. No credit checks and everyone's approved.
You're watching Local 24 this week with Richard Ransom.
Most of the news as far as the county general election this week is concerned was about where people would vote. Would they be able to vote? I mean, it was just, it went to court and we ended up with these 5 early voting locations right here. A judge deciding to add 2 more to the 3 that were previously decided. So it's fairly more representative, I guess, around the county. But Republicans are now complaining that, yeah, but they're awfully a lot of at least 3 Democrat-leaning, if not 4 Democrat-leaning areas of town. So how do you think this whole situation was handled? Ryan, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, it was poorly handled on the Election Commission's part in that they had known they were planning to do this or do some changes to early voting since January or February. No one knew about it until 3 weeks before the election when they suddenly, passed this. So, I mean, of course, Democrats were going to be up in arms about it, and that's what you saw. I mean, there was an outcry. Whether it actually affects the turnout, though, I'm not convinced. All the numbers I've seen to say that early voting, number of locations, how early the voting is, don't affect turnout. So, it might be a lot of much to do about nothing at this point.
Otis?
Well, I mean, a couple of points here. Yes, I agree that the Election Commission bungled this from the very beginning and then kept it quiet until it was the last minute. They should have expected the outcry from the Democratic Party and the NAACP. In terms of affecting turnout, I think that's not the issue here. The issue is access. And to get access equally is what they were fighting for. And I understood that. So to get bogged down and say, well, they're not coming out to vote anyway, well, you don't need to worry about that. I've certainly been pressing for everybody to have the access and the right to vote and to use it. But if you have to drive all the way out to Shelby Farms to do it, then no, nobody was going to do it. I just think that making it available for everyone at the same time would have been the more preferable thing. This compromise is okay with me.
And I should add, there's kind of 2 issues here. One is the adding the new locations to bring us up to 5 locations in the first 4 days of early voting, or now it's the first 3 days of early voting. That goes to what Otis is saying, and that creates fairness, and I agree completely with that.
Mm-hmm. Fairness. Nobody was complaining that it was unfair when it was just downtown at the Election Commission for years and years.
Well, no, that's true. Yep. That's true, and maybe they should have. But even then, all the others open at the same time. So I guess nobody was thinking that I bet you they would have complained if it had left the Election Commission and gone out to Shelby Farms back then. There would have been some complaining going on.
Yeah, but the second issue is that they wanted to also move all of the early voting locations up by a couple days, and they ended up moving them up by a day. So now all locations will open on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was talking about. I'm not sure that 1 day is going to make any difference in turnout.
So maybe not.
The only real development campaign-wise in the county mayor's race, we've talked about how there hasn't really been any negative ads going on, but there was a negative email blast, I guess you could call it, from the Lenore campaign using a Local 24 news story about the plan by Harris was quoted saying that he was not opposed to raising taxes, is the basic gist of that. So where do you think that's going?
Frankly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Certainly among Harris voters, they're not concerned about that. I mean, there are a lot of Harris voters that will say if it takes raising taxes to get some of the things that he is proposing to get done, they're all in favor of it. It might hurt him a little bit in the suburbs where he's really trying desperately to get some votes. But I think in the end, it's not going to make that much difference at all.
I don't want to ignore the Emmett Till development this week, which surprised a lot of people out of nowhere. The Department of Justice announces that it's reopening the investigation into what was seen as one of the major sparks of the civil rights movement, honestly. Back to you, Otis. How significant of a development was this?
Well, it certainly was a talker. It made national news on Thursday night, so everybody was talking about it. I mean, Richard, I was 2 years old when Emmett Till was killed, and I lived about 50 miles from where it happened. Certainly didn't know anything about it when it did happen, but there was not a single African-American male in Mississippi and elsewhere who didn't eventually know and hear about the Emmett Till case, and it's been going on and talked about now for 63 years. It is one of the cornerstones of injustice that started the civil rights movement, but I don't have any confidence that this Justice Department is going to do anything about it. All of the principals are dead except for the woman who made the original charge, and now she's saying in a book that she lied about it, but she's 84 years old, living in North Carolina. What are you going to do, arrest her? I don't think so. I just think it's probably another case of pandering in my mind.
Okay, what do you take on it, Ryan?
Yes, I agree with everything Otis said, but I also think that it's good that we are able to keep this in mind and bring this back up, especially right now in this political climate. I think it's a good reminder to people that you know, this racism is still alive, and we're still, you know, putting this as an example of kind of what racism leads to.
There are a lot of cold cases out there.
Yep.
Hundreds of them. And there are a lot of them who the responsible parties are still alive. And let's go after those cases. Emmett Till from 1955, it's going to be hard to find somebody to be held accountable right now. Yes, this should be remembered because racism is still out there, but there are a lot of other cases that they should be pursuing.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
20-year professional politician D.C. Diane Black. In the D.C. swamp, D.C. Diane's net worth increased by more than $40 million. While enriching herself, D.C. Diane worked to raise our taxes by $160 million, while cutting her taxes by millions. And as budget chair, D.C. Diane let the debt soar to $21 trillion. D.C. Diane Black, out for herself, not us.
Sunrise Chevy Ranch. Huge selection of Silverados, Tahoes, Colorados, Traverses, rebates up to $7,000, discounts how is $10,000. Bankrupt, slow pay, bad credit, it's okay. Sunrise specializes in secondary financing and wants to get you financed. And remember, Sunrise Chevy specializes in used cars and trucks under $10,000 and monthly payments under $200. Chevy's cost less at the Sunrise Chevy Ranch, partner. 385 in Houston, Levy, and Collierville. Find new roads at sunrisememphis.com.
Everything must go sale at Family Leisure.
Huge discount store-wide. Beat next year's price increase. All remaining pools are priced to move. 24-foot pools only $14.99 installed. Save thousands on do-it-yourself pool specials. Patio furniture, wicker, sling, cast, and more. Save up to 60%. Melt away stress. Spa starting at $17.99. Huge savings on all in-stock places. Deep discounts on these great items as well. Grills, fire pits, barbecue islands, and more.
Everything must go sale going on now at Family Leisure.
Family and fun come together.
It's gonna be a good day. So let's get it started. Turn it up, turn it on. Keep the morning moving right along. Yeah, waking up my day. You make it feel alright. Good day, Memphis. Hey, so tell me what's the word on Local 20.
Wake up with Caitlin Lockerbie, John Paul, and meteorologist Chelsea Chandler on Good Day Memphis. Weekday mornings 5 to 7 on Local 24.
Want to thank you for joining us for Local 24 this week, as well as my panel here, Otis Sanford and the 901 columnist, Ryan Poe. Appreciate you folks being at home watching, and the email address to reach me is rransom@localmemphis.com if you'd like to weigh in on the show.